Thanks, Chris. Happy Sabbath, everyone. Hope you had a good week. We got a new puppy. That was pretty cool. A little Australian Shepherd. He's really cute. He's pretty good boy. So that's something new in our lives. Today I would like to start over in Jude. If you'd like to turn to Jude, verse 11. Jude, verse 11, it says, "Woe to them, for they have gone in the way of Cain, have run greedily in the air of Balaam for profit, and perished in the rebellion of Korra." The commentary about that says the false prophets that Jude is dealing with are cut from the same mold as characters from Israel's past history. Number one, Cain represents the heart of a murderer. If you turn over to Genesis chapter 4. This kind of go along with Darren's message too, a little bit. Genesis chapter 4. It says Cain murders Abel. Now Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, and said, "I have acquired a man from the Lord." Then she bore again, this time with brother Abel. Now Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. In the process of time it came to pass, they brought offering of the fruit of the ground to the Lord. Abel also brought of the firstborn of his flock and of their fat. And the Lord respected Abel's offering, but he did not respect Cain and his offering. And Cain was very angry, and his countenance fell. So the Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry, and why has your countenance fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin lies at the door, and its desire is for you, but you should rule over it." Now Cain talked with Abel, his brother. And it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel his brother and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Where's Abel your brother?" And he said, "I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper?" And he said, "What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. So now you are cursed from the earth, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood," tongue twister, "from your hand. When you till the ground, it shall no longer yield its strength to you. A fugitive and a vagabond you shall be on the earth." And Cain said to the Lord, "My punishment is greater than I can bear. Surely you have driven me out this day from the face of the ground. I shall be hidden from your face. I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond on the earth. And it will happen that anyone who finds me will kill me." Verse 15, and the Lord said to him, "Therefore, whoever kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold." And the Lord set a mark on Cain, lest anyone finding him should kill him. So Cain represents the heart of a murderer, killing his brother Abel. The second part there of Jude 11 talks about Balaam. Balaam is typical of the adulterous mind. I'm not going to read Balaam. It's Numbers chapter 22 through 24. But the story we all know about Balaam's ass and how he wanted him to put a curse on the Israelites, and he tried 3 or 4 times, but he couldn't do what God wouldn't let him do. So finally, what he couldn't accomplish with a curse, he did so through a seductive means. So Balaam's the typical adulterous mind. The third area that's talked about in Jude verse 11 talks about Korra. Korra was noted for rebellion against God's chosen leadership. Numbers 16, if you want to go there. Numbers 16. Verse 1, it says, "A rebellion against Moses and Aaron. Now Korah, the son of Izhar, the son of Kohath, the son of Levi, with Dathan and Abiram, the son of Eliab, And On, the son of Pelath, sons of Reuben, took men, rose up before Moses with some of the children of Israel, 250 leaders of the congregation, representatives of the congregation, men of renown. They had gathered against Moses and Aaron and said to them, "You take too much upon yourselves, for all the congregation is holy, every one of them, and the Lord is among them. Why then do you exalt yourself above the assembly of the Lord?" I won't read through the whole incident there, but we all can remember that Korra and those people kind of came up against Moses and Aaron and, tried to say that they were just as good as them. You see that still in today's society. That way of Cain, they don't respect the leadership that God's put in place, and they feel like they're all just as good as the people that God's put up there to lead them. So that's something that we all have to remember and make sure we don't have that type of an attitude. Turn over to John 5 and verse 30. John 5 verse 30, it says, "I can of myself do nothing. As I hear, I judge, and my judgment is righteous, because I do not seek my own will, but the will of the Father who sent me." So even Jesus Christ, he put God first, and he didn't seek his own will. A lot of these people try to seek their own will, start their own church or whatever it is they attempt to do. 2 Timothy 2, verse 19. 2 Timothy 2, verse 19, it says, "Nevertheless, the solid foundation of God stands, having this seal: the Lord knows those who are his, and let everyone who names the name of Christ depart from iniquity." So God knows who listens to his voice. It says his sheep hear his voice and follow him. They don't follow a man. So those three things that are mentioned in Jude 11 there, the way of Cain. Cain represents the heart of a murderer. Balaam's the typical of an adulterous mind. That our society tries to sell everything with sex, and so that's another issue there. Korra was noted for his rebellion against God's chosen people. All these things are the way of Cain. It's talked about, continues down through history. Genesis 6:5, if you want to go there. Genesis 6, verse 5, says, "The wickedness and judgment of men, this way of Cain continued." Genesis 6 and verse 5, it says, "Then the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually." Verse 11, "The earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. So God looked upon the earth, and indeed it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way on the earth." So to kind of get into the way this earth is now, pretty messed up. The way of Cain, or the way of Satan. So it was like for over 1,600 years, the way of Cain continues. From Adam to Lamech, Noah's father, mankind just continues to go downhill. This is what the Bible dictionary says about Lamech. Lamech was Noah's father. It says, Lamech, personal name meaning powerful, son of Methuselah, the father of Noah, a man with two wives, Ada and Zillah, whose sons are credited with the rise of the nomadic way of life, music, and metalworking. Lamech is blamed with the beginning of polygamy or bigamy and the increase of sinful pride in the earth. There's a lot of that on the earth nowadays also. That's found in Genesis 4 and verse 19. It says the Song of Lamech in Genesis 4:23 through 24. is an ancient poem supporting unlimited revenge. I thought it was kind of interesting reading that when Elaine and I went over to Jordan for the feast one year. Our guide was a Bedouin guide, and he was always like, "You don't have to worry about anything." He says, everyone knows that a Bedouin, he says that if they hold the knife up, nobody will touch you, because the Bedouins, if they hold the knife up, they, one generation, 2 generations, 3 generations, 4, before the knife falls from their hands, like 5 generations, they can take revenge on anybody that hurts them or their family. Or I was kind of intrigued with that. I had one of these little camcorders, and I always was watching that guy and listening to his talk, but I just thought that was kind of interesting that they can continue to take revenge for generation after generation. So Noah's father wasn't a very good person, but his great-granddad, Enoch, that was a good example for him and a good influence. Talks about in Genesis 5:22 that Enoch walked with God for 300 years. So we have the way of the Lord, or the way of Cain, still there. You could say the way of Satan. We come to the flood right after Lamech. Noah's son's born. Noah has favor in God's sight. I was thinking he must have had some influence from Enoch. It's interesting. You look through all the history and the different things, and Noah's sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, you think Adam was still alive when Shem came around. So I thought, that's crazy how those people lived for so long, the different men, or that might have been an influence in their lives for the good. But anyhow, Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Genesis 6 and verse 8 tells us that. Noah builds the ark, and the flood comes. The way of Cain is washed away, right? Wrong. Only 8 people are left on the earth. All mankind was killed, except for Noah and his sons and their wives. Things are okay for a while, but Satan is still around. If you want to turn to Genesis chapter 9, a couple pages over. Genesis 9 and verse 20. It says, "And Noah began to be a farmer, and he planted a vineyard. Then he drank of the wine and was drunk and became uncovered in his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and told his 2 brothers outside. But Shem and Japheth took a garment, laid it on both their shoulders, went backwards, and covered the nakedness of their father. Their faces were turned away, and they did not see their father's nakedness. So when Noah woke from his wine, knew what his younger son had done to him. Then he said, Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants, and he shall be to his brethren. And he said, Blessed be the Lord, the God of Shem, and may Canaan be his servant. May God enlarge Japheth, and may he dwell in the tents of Shem, and may Canaan be his servant." And so the Ham or Shem, or lost my place anyhow. Okay, so it says then the way of Cain's passed down from Ham to Cush. Talks about Cush. Cush begot Nimrod. If you turn over another page, Genesis 10, verse 8. It says, Cush begot Nimrod, and he began to be a mighty one on the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Therefore it is said, like Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. So Cush begat Nimrod. The way of Cain just continues to go. They keep passing it down from one generation to the next. Nimrod's personal name means we shall rebel. So it's obvious what kind of person he was. He had that same attitude of Cain. I wanted to do this message. I wanted to title it, Don't Be a Nimrod. Because he was really the influence on mankind ever since he tried to build the Tower of Babel, what Rob was talking about a few weeks back. His personal name meaning we shall rebel. From our UCG commentary, post-diluvian rebellion, the period after the flood, it says, when Noah and his family disembarked from the ark, God said, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. Talks about that in Genesis 9:1. And the words suggested that God intended the people to diffuse themselves widely over the land. When they came to Shinar, Mesopotamia, the people made a fateful decision. They decided to gather together to build large cities, contrary to God's original intent. Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower whose top is in the heavens. Let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered abroad over the face of the earth. It says that in Genesis 11 and verse 4. The statement is revealing on several levels. It reveals that the express purpose for building the city and the tower was to prevent wide population dispersion. Kind of think about today's the way society is, and they want everybody jammed into these big cities so they can keep their thumb on them. The design to build a tower, probably some type of ziggurat or pyramid, indicates the concentration of population would be achieved through highly organized governmental projects. So there it starts in Babel. These governmental projects to keep the people occupied and working for them. History provides evidence of a centralization of religious authority as well. And the phrase, let us make a name for ourselves, is another way of saying, let us get power over others. Furthermore, the choice of a tower whose top is in the heavens may indicate a deliberate disbelief in God's promise to not send another great flood, effectively calling God a liar. Thus we see the formation of a political and religious power center opposed to God, or opposed to God's will, and using its power to dominate others. It appears that the leader of this effort was Nimrod, who built an empire from here. Talks about that in Genesis 10:8-12. He did the Tower of Babel, Erech, Akkad, Calin. Babylonian mystery started there. They said he did Nineveh and a bunch of other places, but that's where all these different ways they run our governments and our world is fastly falling downhill. Like Darren was talking about, the storm clouds on the horizon. Darren mentioned it, but I'll turn there. Also, Matthew 24, verse 37, it says, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be when time Christ returns. 2 Timothy 3:1-5, Darren mentioned. Second Timothy 3:1-5. It says, but know this, that in the last days perilous times will come. For men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self-control, brutal, despisers of good, traitors, headstrong, haughty, lovers of pleasure, rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness, but denying its power, and from such people turn away. So this is kind of like the situation we're in now. I'd encourage you to, do a study on Nimrod and, just go through the whole 5 who, what, where, when, why, and how. Who was he? Who was his wife? When was he born? What things did he do? I mean, it's just really eye-opening to see where all these different religions came from. I'm sure you all know that, but I mean, it's awesome to look and read it and go over it again and just put in your mind that we do know God's truth and are really blessed to know that. These times are going to come, but soon the way of God will be established at the return of Jesus Christ. It's one of my favorite scriptures in Daniel 2 and verse 44. Daniel 2, verse 44, it says, "And in the days of these kings the God of heaven will set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people. It shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever." Forever. So that's something that we have to look forward to. Cain's attitude will still be around till all things are made new, but God's way will be taught and Jesus Christ will be in charge. That is such a great time we have to look forward to. We're so blessed to know God's way. Think about all these ways that have come since time began, Adam and Cain, and down through Lamech and Cush and all the different societies that have sprung up. Darian was talking about Jeremiah there, and we keep going downhill until Christ returns and sets things straight. I was just thinking, you go through all those things of Nimrod and the false religions and how they sacrificed their kids to Molech, and you just think about how we've hardened ourselves so far in this society today. I was looking online, it says 65 million abortions have been done since Roe versus Wade. And it's like, you don't even think much about it. Our society has just kind of accepted it, how far downhill we've gone. But times are coming, times are changing. Christ is going to return and set up his government and his kingdom. So just stay close to God and be ready for Christ's return.